let me ask the question again. Kouri never asked you for fentanyl, true?
Yes.
And you haven't done any time for any of the crimes that you committed, correct?
Correct. I was incarcerated. I stayed in jail for 23 days.
Well,
that's it.
23 days when you were arrested in April of 2023. Yes. And it was during that time period you were in jail because you were getting your story together with Detectives Maynard and Detective O'Driscoll.
Yes.
Okay. And the pills that you bought from Mr. Crozier, you don't know what those pills were, correct?
He had told me that he had fentanyl.
You didn't look at the pills, correct?
No, I didn't sit there and play with them, no.
You didn't know what they were, correct?
Correct.
You didn't have them tested?
No.
Okay. You didn't take any, you said?
No.
Correct?
Correct.
You did or you did not sell them to anyone else?
I did not sell them to anyone else.
Okay. You don't know what happened to those pills, correct?
I don't know who picked them up, if that's what you're asking.
Right. You don't know who took those pills, correct?
Correct.
And you have, sitting here today, absolutely no information about what happened to Eric Richins other than that what you were told that he died of a fentanyl overdose.
Correct.
And you have no idea what happened the night that Eric Richins died.
I do not.
And you have no knowledge if Ms. Richins killed Eric Richins.
I do not.
All right, so is this undermining her credibility? Is this putting this in a place where the jury's like, she's just saying whatever police want her to say? Let's bring in our think tank. Joining me, criminal defense attorney Josh Kolsrud. Also with us, former law enforcement officer, host of the Strong Enough podcast, Claudia King. And finally, entertainment host Holland Reed with us. Great to see everyone. All right, so, I mean, this is like a simple credibility call as we watch her on cross-examination. Josh, why don't you start off the conversation, your thoughts about whether or not she's holding up, whether she's credible, or whether she is just saying whatever police are telling her to say, like she's a mannequin on the lap of police here.
You know, the defense has definitely thrown some darts today that hurt. But, you know, we all know that this person is a drug abuser and an addict. And I don't think it's very hard to believe that she was slinging some fentanyl here. So when you have a poison case, the most important thing to really consider is access. Who had access to the poison? And the defense have put all their cards on that one question, because if the jury believes that this person sold or gave fentanyl to Kouri, it's game over. They don't have to really consider anything else. So, you know, it's a dangerous move for them to do that. So how do you determine if she's telling the truth? Well, in any he said, she said case, or she said case like this one, you look at corroborating evidence, right? So what's corroborating her evidence? Well, we know that she was communicating with Kouri during the time of the murder. Also, you have the dubious check, right? Right after the victim's death. And then finally, you have the toxicology report that he died from fentanyl. So those three things are so important. I feel like the defendant is going to have to take the witness stand to explain that check away.
Go ahead, Claudia.
Yeah, I totally agree with Josh on that one. You know, when we deal with witnesses like this, drug users, drug dealers, they're not the moral beacon of society. And I think the jury gets that. They know that they're not going to have the most honest, wonderful, moral, ethical person up there on the witness stand. And so it does come down to that corroborating evidence. And as long as the prosecution can tie these things together that this witness has spoken about, it just gives credibility to her story. And I think that's where Kouri Richins is going to have the problems. And as Josh said, I think she is going to have to testify to put a lot of this information to rest, or try to convince the jury that nothing this lady said was true.
And I'm going to jump in from the viewer's perspective, which is why I'm here most of the time, is because we are dealing with so many facets of this. We're dealing with, okay, is she a mule? Is there a power dynamic with this couple? They have a housekeeper. why would you have a housekeeper as an addict, but then you're also using that housekeeper to bring the drugs into the home? Was she a user that did not have a memory, that ordered the wrong drug, which she said on the stand and actually admitted to, saying, hey, I don't know what I ordered, but they said that that's what I got, then that's what I got. So there's so many layers to this. And does that make her culpable, right? Was she a witness to just being in a power dynamic where she couldn't say no and wanted to keep her job? Or was she someone that really was participating in some bigger, conspiracy drug situation, which I don't think she was. She was, for me, honestly, credible on the stand, watching her as a layman going, well, she's saying all the things and admitting all the things, but she got immunity. And why did she get immunity? So there's a lot of, I think, hand-to-hand things that are at play. But at the end of the day, what does it come down to? Did she know that she was providing the fentanyl, or was she completely unaware because she is a user? This is why I'm here. Honestly, this is the made for crime TV drama that we have to see play out, and we're seeing it play out in real time.
Now, there's one little fact here that was thrown into this whole thing. It's kind of strange. You can call it different. You can call it amusing if you want to, but I think it brings a level of credibility to her story. And her story is that Kouri Richins asked her for the Michael Jackson drug. Like, if you're just making stuff up, why would you say that? Why would you say she asked for the Michael Jackson drug? To me, that makes no sense. So let's take a listen to how they dealt with this issue on cross-examination.
Ms. Richins, on the second time, asked for the Michael Jackson drug, correct?
Correct.
And you told Ms. Whistler that you had to Google it, correct? Because you didn't know what it was.
Correct.
And that you discovered it was propofol, correct?
I don't recall if that's what I remember, but
Well, you said yesterday that you discovered it was propofol.
okay, yes.
All right. And you can't buy propofol on the streets, correct?
I'm not sure.
To your knowledge, can you buy it on the streets?
No, I don't go around asking for it, no.
Okay, that's
not
fair.
that I recall if you can
That's
or
fair.
not.
Like, if you're just making things up, why would you make that up? That's weird. But I could see how someone who's not necessarily in the middle of the drug world, but kind of knows and maybe watched a little bit of the trial. Oh, yeah, Michael Jackson died from some drug. Like, that's what we know that drug for, Claudia. That's why, to me, this little fact, as strange and as off the beaten path it is, to me, reeks of credibility.
It absolutely does reek of credibility because, like you said, if she was making all this up, or if the police were just feeding her information that they wanted her to say, they would have given her an actual drug name and not just the Michael Jackson drug. And I think that it plays into her personality. She's not familiar with all these kind of other drugs that might be available. And I think that made her come across very human and very honest about that particular thing.
And I got to dive in here on the as I got to jump in, Vinny and Josh and Claudia. And to Claudia's point, that's not a drug. First of all, Michael Jackson did die of an overdose simply because he had a drug pusher that had the title MD behind his name, and he died because of overdose misuse of the drug. We also have Prince, who died of a fentanyl-laced drug that he requested through someone that he knew. So it's the idea of salt and sugar. It comes down to trust. Did this couple trust their housekeeper drug dealer to get the drugs, or were they just, unbeknownst to her, she was not in the headspace to get the proper drugs? And I think that's what it comes down to as well. But the fact that Vinny, you're absolutely right. The fact that she referenced the Michael Jackson drug, which is not a drug that a regular user of any kind could get readily available to them at a street corner or what have you, is very, very, very credible to her saying, well, let me go get something similar. And maybe she heard fentanyl, but it was propanol, whatever the name of the drug was.
And remember, Michael Jackson was poisoned to death. Yes, he did it to himself, but he died from an overdose. And the fact that we're talking about another poisoning type of case. I think Vinny's right. You know, the prosecutor should really hone in on that during the closing arguments.
Yeah, I think it would be a good point to make, because why else? Why would you make that up? That's something you wouldn't make up. That had to come from Kouri. And here's some redirect talking about the deal that the housekeeper got, this sort of get out of jail free card.
You repeatedly stress to them how much you love Derek and how much he did not deserve what happened to him.
Correct.
Do you recall testifying yesterday, and again today actually, where detectives said that you could get a big, giant get out of free jail card?
Correct.
After detectives said, do you realize you could get a big get out of jail free card, what did you tell them?
I told them that even if that was the case, I felt like I still needed to step up and take accountability if this is really what happened to Eric.
Okay, does that sound genuine? Do you think she was impacted by the death of Eric?
It doesn't, and I'll tell you why. I mean, so you're telling me that you really have selective morality. I mean, you're going to supply Kouri with this poison, this fentanyl, and that's okay, right? Where, you know, hundreds of thousands of Americans overdose every single year. You're okay with that. But the wrong person dies, and, you know, you're up in arms about that. You know, I may believe her testimony, but I don't believe that part. You know, give me a break.
I mean, I think she felt bad. There were definitely moments where she seemed way more emotional than Kouri did when talking about Eric. But at the same point, do I think she's going to raise her hand and say, you know what, forget that deal. I want to go pay for what I did. I'm going to go sit in jail for a while. That's not going to happen. So I agree with Josh on that point.
I'm going to just say, you know, behavior is everything. Half of the testimony, she was quirky, cocky, confident, indifferent. And then the other half, she was wiping away fake tears. I feel like she doesn't care. She got what she needed to get, and that was immunity. And at the end of the day, she's not going to probably see, if mark me if I'm wrong, another day in jail off of this case. Now she just gets to just kind of walk away and be, you know, hopefully sober, but also at the same time indifferent.
Yeah. All right, we've got more to get to. Like I said, that whole chain, right? Up next, we're going to hear from the supplier. What did he say? Did he remember supplying fentanyl to the housekeeper? Plus, coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinny Politan Investigates, blood on the property, a home treated as a crime scene. What unfolded in the final hours before Nancy Guthrie vanished? Tonight, we investigate.
I want you to look at the jury. I want you to tell them, are you telling the truth here today?
Yes, I am telling the truth.
All right, what just happened? What just happened here, Josh? What happened here?
Well, I mean, you're hearing inconsistent statements, of course. You know, I see what the prosecutors want to do with this witness, right? You know, they want to bolster Lobner's testimony that she supplied the defendant with fentanyl. But again, you know, in a poison case, you know, it's all about the acquisition of the poison and the administration of that poison. So, you know, it does corroborate, kind of, if you parse through his testimony, that he supplied her with fentanyl, although he tends to go back and forth about what he remembers and what he did.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to concede this fentanyl, right? That I'm selling these Roxys, these Blues, and these oxycodone. Claudia, what is going on here? Does he just not remember? Does he think he sold one thing and maybe he sold something else? Or did he not sell fentanyl?
Well, I think the thing that's interesting about this is one of the reasons that there have been so many overdose deaths is because fentanyl was laced into other drugs. And so people didn't know they were taking fentanyl at all. They thought they were taking oxycodone or OxyContin or whatever. So I don't really see this as a problem for the prosecution. I see it as maybe he thought he was selling one thing and it was laced with something else. I mean, he seems slightly more together than the last witness. And I mean, at the very end, he told the jury he was telling the truth, Vinny. So obviously we have to believe him because he told us he was telling the truth. But I think it's very possible that there was fentanyl in what he was selling, and maybe he didn't know that. And so he's telling the truth. Two things can be true at the same time. He's telling the truth, but there was fentanyl in what he sold.
What does your gut tell you here, Holland, about this guy? Is he knowingly selling fentanyl, not knowingly selling fentanyl, or just not selling it at all?
I gotta always do like both sides of the coin here. It's a personal story for me, which I know people hate that I always share a personal story. I have two very close people to me. One's daughter died of fentanyl. She thought she was taking Molly. Another one died in her bathroom, and she was a nurse. The very personal stories. This is a very serious conversation. On the flip coin, this guy is giving me terrible actor, terrible mafioso, got off immunity and what have you. Now, the only thing is, if he was not the head, right? We talk about rotting from the head down. Maybe they were going for the bigger fish in this case. So he is going to say whatever has to be said. He's going to do whatever has to be done. He's immune, and he's just a bad actor all the way around. I just was listening to him, and I'm thinking to myself, no, you're getting away with something because they're going after something bigger. And it's a typical, Hollywood story. You can't write this better than what this is happening. Unfortunately, they casted the wrong guy up on the stand. I didn't find him very believable. I found him very personable to try to fit a narrative that some really bad writer wrote. And that's all that I got from it.
Yeah, and Josh, isn't that the challenge prosecutors always have? Because when you're a prosecutor, you don't pick your witnesses, right? It's not like you go, who do I want to testify for me? Oh, I'll take, this pillar of the community. No, the witnesses are chosen by the defendant. Like, the defendant introduces all these people into it. So you get the housekeeper on drugs. The housekeeper brings us this guy. And then prosecutors got to try to present this in front of a jury and sell the case, Josh. That's the challenge that people don't realize that happens in so many different cases. The prosecution's case looks terrible because all the people associated with the defendant are terrible people.
Yeah, and there's no way that this witness presented himself this way to the prosecution when they were preparing him for his testimony. No prosecutor in their right mind would put on that witness the way that he testified today. I'm sure that the prosecution is regretting the fact that they put him on. They didn't need him, frankly. I think there's enough circumstantial evidence to win the case. I mean, the victim died of fentanyl. I mean, we don't have to, argue about what the poison is, right? I mean, if you believe that the maid gave or sold the fentanyl to Kouri, it's game over. Like, you didn't need this guy. And now he's creating some reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
I think it's a self-inflicted move.
Yeah. Well, I think the one thing prosecutors should always tell the jury is, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I don't get to pick my witnesses. They were all picked by her. She's the one that picked them. They're her friends, the people she associated with. I'm sorry I was pointing at you, Josh. I wanted to point over there. But anyway. All right, Think Tank, stay with us. When we come back, we're going to switch gears, take you to Georgia. It's a school shooting case, but the school shooter's not on trial. It's his father for murder for the school shooting. Even though he wasn't there, he took the stand today. We'll show you what happened.